Money does not respond to effort. It responds to identity. That's why some people work their entire lives and still feel behind, while others seem to attract opportunities without chasing them, not because they're lucky, not because they were chosen, but because their mind was trained differently. Wealth is not something you run after. It's something that moves toward people who are internally prepared to hold it. And preparation does not begin in your bank account. It begins in your mind. Most people were never taught this. They were taught to work harder, push longer, sacrifice more. But no one showed them how to become the kind of person wealth stays with. This audiobook is not about getting rich fast. It's not about tricks, hacks, or shortcuts. It's about rewiring the mental patterns that decide whether money comes and whether it stays. Because without the right mindset, even success becomes unstable. And without the right identity, money feels heavy instead of supportive. In the quiet moments when the world stops talking, your mind reveals what it truly believes about wealth, value, and worthiness. And those beliefs are already shaping your results. Tonight, we are not adding new information. We are removing the invisible limits you've been carrying for years. You'll learn why wealth begins in silence, why discipline matters more than motivation, why repetition reshapes identity, and why becoming wealthy is less about doing more and more about thinking differently consistently. Let your body relax. Let your breathing slow. You don't need to try. You don't need to force belief. Just listen. Because when the mind changes, results follow naturally. This is where wealth truly begins. Money leaves most people for the same reason it came into their lives. Accidentally. It arrives through luck, timing, as promotion, a business deal, a sudden opportunity. And then, quietly, it disappears. Not because those people are irresponsible, not because they don't work hard, but because their identity never changed. Money does not stay where it is not recognized. This is the truth few are willing to face. Most people believe money leaves because of bad decisions. But decisions are symptoms. The cause lives deeper. It lives in self-image. Your self-image is the invisible thermostat that decides how much money feels normal for you to hold. When money rises above that internal setting, your behavior will unconsciously correct it. You'll overspend. You'll hesitate. You'll self-sabotage. You'll attract chaos, not on purpose. Automatically, because the mind always tries to return to what feels familiar. This is why some people win the lottery and end up broke. Why athletes earn millions and lose it all. Why entrepreneurs hit a big year and then collapse. Money came, but identity didn't expand to meet it. Wealth does not stick to effort. It sticks to capacity. And capacity is not built in your bank account. It is built in your nervous system. If deep down you see yourself as someone who struggles, money will feel heavy. If you see yourself as someone who gets by, abundance will feel unsafe. If you see yourself as someone who survives, prosperity will feel temporary. The mind will always protect identity first, even if it means pushing money away. This is why chasing money never works long-term. Chasing assumes money is outside of you. But money is a mirror. It reflects how you see yourself. This chapter is not here to shame you. It is here to reveal the mechanism. Once you understand this, you stop blaming circumstances, and you stop fighting symptoms. Most people try to fix money problems with tactics. More hustle, more discipline, more pressure. But pressure applied to the wrong identity only creates burnout. You cannot permanently earn beyond who you believe you are. You can temporarily exceed it, but not sustain it. The wealthy understand something quietly. Before money becomes stable, identity must become stable. Stability does not mean comfort. It means internal consistency. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions no longer fight each other. When identity stabilizes, money stabilizes. When identity wavers, money wavers. This is why wealth feels calm in some hands and chaotic in others. Same money, different identity. People often ask, why does money come and go in waves? Because identity comes and goes in waves. 1 month you feel confident, aligned, focused. Money flows. Then doubt returns. Fear tightens. Old stories resurface. Money reacts accordingly. Not because money has emotion, but because your behavior does. This chapter asks you to look honestly at how you see yourself, not how you wish to see yourself. Not affirmations, not motivation. Truth. Do you see yourself as someone who manages resources calmly, or someone who feels constant pressure around money? Do you see yourself as a builder, or as someone waiting for relief? Money listens to those answers more than to your goals. This is why wealth does not respond to desire. Desire is common. Identity is rare. Everyone wants more. Few are willing to become someone different internally. That internal shift is uncomfortable because it requires letting go of familiar struggle. Some people are more attached to struggle than they realize. Struggle becomes identity. I'm always trying. I'm always behind. I'm doing my best. These sound humble, but they are ceilings. Money does not stay with someone who secretly believes they are not ready. Readiness is not knowledge. It is self-trust. When you trust yourself, money relaxes. When you doubt yourself, money leaves. This is not mystical. It is behavioral. Someone who trusts themselves, delays gratification, makes decisions calmly, thinks long-term, handles pressure without panic. Someone who doesn't, reacts emotionally, seeks quick relief, avoids responsibility, escapes discomfort. Money follows the first pattern. It avoids the second. So the question is not, how do I make more money? The real question is, who am I when money is present? Your answer decides whether it stays. This chapter is the foundation of everything that follows. Because until identity changes, nothing else matters. No strategy, no system, no habit. Money never stays with the wrong identity. Not because it's cruel, but because it's precise. And once you understand that, you stop chasing wealth. You start preparing for it. In the next chapter, we'll expose scarcity as a mental pattern and why working harder often reinforces the very lack you're trying to escape. Most people believe scarcity is caused by not having enough money. That belief alone is what keeps them poor. Scarcity is not born in your bank account. It is installed in your mind. Long before money becomes tight, thoughts become tight. Language becomes tight. Breathing becomes tight. Decisions become tight. And once the mind contracts, money follows. Scarcity is not about numbers. It is about perception under pressure. Two people can earn the same amount. One feels calm. The other feels constant anxiety. Same income. Different inner pattern. Scarcity is a reflex. It shows up in the way you think, the way you speak, and the way your body reacts to uncertainty. Listen carefully. When scarcity is active, the mind says, I need to be careful. This might not last. I can't risk that. I should hold on. These thoughts feel responsible. They feel smart. But they are signals of fear, not wisdom. Scarcity disguises itself as logic. That is why it is so dangerous. Once scarcity becomes habitual, it shapes behavior automatically. You don't decide. You react. You avoid investing. You delay decisions. You choose short-term comfort over long-term gain. Not because you're lazy, because your nervous system is protecting you from imagined loss. Scarcity is a survival pattern, not a financial strategy. And survival patterns cannot build wealth. They can only maintain struggle. This is why many people work harder and feel poorer. Effort increases. Anxiety increases. Results stagnate. The mind says, if I just do more, I'll be safe. But safety is not created by more effort. It is created by internal regulation. Scarcity hijacks your attention. It narrows your focus to what might go wrong. When focus narrows, creativity dies. When creativity dies, opportunity disappears. This is why scarcity creates the illusion that nothing is working. Nothing new can enter a closed system. Scarcity is a closed loop. It feeds itself through repetition. The more you think about lack, the more your brain scans for evidence of lack. The more evidence you find, the more real scarcity feels. This is not mindset theory. This is neuroscience. Your brain deletes information that does not match its dominant pattern. If scarcity is dominant, opportunity becomes invisible. That is why some people miss chances standing right in front of them. Not because the chances weren't there, but because their mind was not tuned to see them. Scarcity trains you to ask the wrong questions. Instead of, how can this grow, you ask, what if this fails? Instead of, what's the leverage here, you ask, what if I lose? These questions feel cautious, but they quietly lock you into small outcomes. Because the quality of your questions determines the quality of your decisions. And decisions shape income. Scarcity also affects language. Pay attention to how people speak. I can't afford that. That's too expensive. People like me don't do that. I'll do it when I have more money. These phrases sound harmless. They are not. They train the subconscious to expect limitation. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce a financial ceiling. Not because words are magical, but because words guide attention. Attention guides behavior. Behavior produces results. Scarcity is not broken by positive thinking. It is broken by pattern interruption. You don't fight scarcity. You outgrow it. How? By slowing down your reactions. Scarcity thrives in urgency. It wants you to decide fast. Spend fast. Avoid fast. Quit fast. Wealth requires the opposite. Stillness. Pause. The ability to sit with uncertainty without collapsing into fear. This is why wealthy people appear calm under pressure. They are not braver. They are less reactive. They have trained their nervous system to tolerate uncertainty. That tolerance creates room. Room creates options. Options create leverage. Scarcity collapses time. Everything feels like right now or never. Wealth expands time. Decisions are made from perspective, not panic. This is why trying harder often makes scarcity worse. More force applied to a fearful system increases tension. Tension reduces clarity. Clarity is what creates money. Scarcity is not removed by income alone. Many people earn more and feel poorer because their internal pattern never changed. They simply scaled anxiety. If you want to break scarcity, you must retrain how you respond to lack, not by denying it, but by refusing to let it control your behavior. Scarcity says, protect. Wealth says, position. Protection shrinks you. Positioning expands you. This chapter is not asking you to be reckless. It is asking you to be aware. Aware of when fear is driving your choices. Aware of when your language is closing doors. Aware of when urgency is stealing clarity. Once you see scarcity as a pattern, not a fact, you regain control. And control is the beginning of wealth. In the next chapter, we will break down the wealth frequency, quietly, practically, and explain why people with similar habits attract similar results without mysticism, without exaggeration. When people hear the word frequency, they often think of something mystical. That misunderstanding has ruined a powerful idea. Wealth frequency is not magic. It is not manifestation in the way most people imagine it. It is simply the pattern you repeat so often that it becomes automatic. Your habits, your default emotions, your standard reactions, those create results. Nothing else. Think of frequency as a baseline state, the emotional and mental posture you return to when nothing is happening, not when things are exciting, not when motivation is high, but on ordinary days. That baseline determines everything, because life responds to what is consistent, not what is intense. Two people can visualize success. Only one builds wealth. Why? Because one returns daily to discipline, clarity, and long-term thinking. The other returns to distraction, urgency, and emotional decision-making. Same dream, different frequency. Wealth frequency is not what you think once. It is what you habitually think, feel, and do together. Thought plus emotion plus behavior, not separately, together. This is why people who think positive still struggle. Their thoughts say abundance, but their emotions signal fear, and their behavior shows avoidance. The system is misaligned. Wealth does not respond to words. It responds to alignment. When thought, emotion, and action agree, results follow naturally. This is also why people like each other, attract similar outcomes. Not because of luck, but because their internal rhythms match. They make similar decisions under pressure. They tolerate similar levels of risk. They expect similar outcomes. And expectation silently shapes behavior. The wealthy are not constantly excited. They are internally stable. That stability allows patience. Patience allows compounding. Compounding creates wealth. Most people operate on a scarcity frequency without realizing it. They rush. They react. They seek relief instead of leverage. Their nervous system is trained for urgency. Urgency feels productive, but urgency destroys strategy. Wealth frequency feels slower, calmer, less dramatic. And that's why most people don't trust it. They mistake calm for laziness. But calm is capacity. Calm allows you to see further. When the mind is noisy, everything feels close. Bills feel immediate. Problems feel personal. Decisions feel heavy. When the mind is quiet, space opens. You begin to notice patterns. You start choosing better timing instead of faster action. That is wealth frequency in practice. It's not about attracting money. It's about not repelling it with instability. Money avoids chaos, not morally. Mechanically, chaos produces inconsistency. Inconsistency destroys returns. This is why emotional people struggle financially. Not because emotion is bad, but because unregulated emotion leads to impulsive behavior. Impulsivity breaks systems. Wealth is built by systems. Another misunderstanding is thinking frequency means always feeling good. It does not. Wealthy people feel doubt, frustration, and fear. The difference is they do not obey those feelings. They observe them. They slow down instead of speeding up. They delay decisions when emotions spike. That delay protects capital. Scarcity frequency collapses under emotion. Wealth frequency absorbs emotion without changing direction. This is what makes it powerful. The brain learns through repetition. If every setback causes panic, panic becomes the baseline. If every challenge is met with steadiness, steadiness becomes the baseline. Your baseline is your frequency, and your frequency determines the type of decisions you make when no one is watching. This is why wealth often looks boring. Same routines, same thinking patterns, same standards. Over time, those patterns compound quietly. People only notice the results at the end, and they call it luck. But frequency always shows up eventually. If you constantly switch directions, money will pass through you. If you constantly stabilize and refine, money will stay. Wealth frequency also changes how you relate to time. Scarcity frequency lives in now. Wealth frequency lives in later. Not someday, but delayed satisfaction. This is not sacrifice. It is sequencing. Do the uncomfortable first. Take the long view. Let results mature. The wealthy are not more patient by nature. They have trained patience. Just like muscle memory. Repeated exposure to waiting without quitting. That training creates confidence. Confidence reduces emotional noise. Reduced noise improves decision quality. And better decisions attract better outcomes. This chapter matters because it removes fantasy. You do not attract wealth by hoping. You attract it by becoming predictable in the right direction. When your mind is calm, your emotions are regulated, and your actions are consistent. Wealth has no resistance. Not because the universe rewards you, but because your behavior finally aligns with how value is created. In the next chapter, we will go deeper, not into affirmations, but into rewriting your financial self-image, the silent identity that decides how far you're allowed to go. Before money ever changes in your life, your self-image has already decided the outcome. Not your goals, not your effort, not your intelligence, your self-image. This is the silent identity you return to when pressure appears. It is not what you say you want. It is what you believe you are allowed to have. And money never rises above that line. You can work harder. You can hustle longer. You can learn new strategies. But if your self-image is set at survival level, wealth will always leak out. Not dramatically, quietly. A bad decision here. An impulsive purchase there. A missed opportunity because it felt too big. Money doesn't disappear. It retreats to match your internal comfort zone. This is why some people lose money as fast as they earn it, and others grow steadily with less effort. Same world. Different self-image. Your financial self-image is not created by affirmations. It is created by repeated emotional experiences. Moments where you felt capable or powerless. Moments where you felt safe with money or ashamed of it. Your nervous system remembers these moments, and it builds rules. Rules like, people like me don't keep money. I always have to struggle. When I have more, something bad happens. I'm not the kind of person who manages wealth. These rules run silently. You don't hear them as sentences. You feel them as hesitation, as guilt when things go well, as anxiety when numbers grow, as comfort when you return to familiar struggle. That comfort is dangerous, because the brain prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar success. So, rewriting your financial self-image is not about motivation. It is about making wealth feel normal. Not exciting. Not scary. Normal. This is where most people fail. They try to jump identities. From I barely get by to I am rich and unstoppable. The nervous system rejects that jump. It feels fake, so it self-sabotages. The real work is quieter. You rewrite identity through behavioral evidence. Small, repeated actions that tell your mind, I am someone who handles money calmly. I am someone who plans. I am someone who keeps what I earn. I am someone who makes long-term decisions. Notice these are not affirmations. They are descriptions of behavior. Identity follows behavior, not words. This is why affirmations alone don't work. If your actions contradict your words, The brain believes actions. Always. So instead of shouting, "I am wealthy," you practice acting like someone who respects money. You pause before spending. You track without fear. You delay without pain. Each time you do this, your self-image shifts slightly, not dramatically, but permanently. Another mistake people make is thinking self-image is conscious. It is not. It is revealed under stress. When an unexpected expense hits, when income increases suddenly, when opportunity requires responsibility, that moment shows you who you believe you are. Rewriting self-image means training those moments, not avoiding them. This is why wealthy people expose themselves to responsibility early. They manage small amounts seriously. They treat $100 like $10. Ling, ling, ling. Not in fear, in structure. Structure creates safety. Safety allows scale. If you cannot stay calm managing little, you will panic managing more. Money doesn't amplify skill. It amplifies identity. So the work here is internal posture. How do you stand around money? Do you shrink? Do you rush? Do you avoid? Or do you slow down? Slowing down is power, because panic is a signal of identity conflict. Your system says, "This doesn't match who I think I am." Instead of forcing confidence, you build congruence. You bring behavior up slowly to match future identity. This means you stop saying one day. You start saying, "This is how I operate now," not in scale. In principle, you might not invest millions, but you invest regularly. You might not run companies, but you think in systems. You might not have wealth yet, but you behave like a steward, not a gambler. That is how identity shifts. Quietly, consistently. Another key point, your financial self-image is influenced by environment. Not motivation speakers. Environment. Who you listen to. What problems feel normal? What conversations feel familiar? If everyone around you treats money as stress, your nervous system will too. This is not weakness. It is conditioning. So rewriting self-image requires intentional exposure, not to flashy success, but to calm competence. People who treat money as boring, predictable, manageable. That normalizes wealth faster than inspiration ever could. The final piece is this: your self-image will resist change, not because it's wrong, but because it's familiar. Resistance is expected. It means the rewrite is working. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, clarity over urgency, long-term over relief, you are voting for a new identity. And identities are built by votes, not declarations. You don't need to become someone else. You need to become consistent. That consistency rewires how your brain sees you. And once your self-image shifts, wealth no longer feels heavy. It feels appropriate. In the next chapter, we will address why hustle alone fails and why mental authority, not effort, is what actually creates financial momentum. Most people believe money comes from effort. Work harder, push longer, grind more hours. And yet, you already know people who work endlessly and still struggle. while others seem to move calmly and grow faster with less visible effort. The difference is not hustle. It is mental authority. Hustle without authority is noise. Motion without direction. Energy without command. It creates activity, not power. Mental authority means this: your mind leads, not your moods. Not fear. Not urgency. Without it, hustle becomes reactive. You work because you feel anxious. You chase because you feel behind. You move because you are afraid to stop. That kind of hustle burns energy but builds nothing stable. Because money does not respond to desperation. It responds to clarity. People without mental authority are constantly negotiating with themselves. I'll do it later. I'll try tomorrow. Just this once. I deserve a break. Each negotiation weakens identity. And wealth requires identity strength. Mental authority is the ability to decide once and act without debate. Not emotionless. Not aggressive. Calm. Final. This is how wealthy people move. They do not ask their feelings for permission. They do not wait to feel ready. They decide, and the mind follows. Most people have motivation, but no authority. Motivation fluctuates. Authority does not. That's why hustle culture fails so many people. It teaches output without inner command. So people work hard but leak focus. Money and consistency. They sprint in circles. Mental authority starts with control over thoughts. If your thoughts argue with your decisions, you don't have authority. If your mood decides whether you show up, you don't have authority. If distractions pull you away easily, you don't have authority. Money senses this instability, and it avoids unstable containers. This is why sudden money often disappears. Lottery winners lose it. Athletes go broke. Viral success collapses. The identity had no authority to hold the weight. Authority over thoughts means you choose what you think deliberately. You don't believe every internal voice. You don't obey every impulse. A thought appears, this is too hard. Authority says, not relevant. Continue. Another thought appears, this won't work. Authority says, information noted. Action continues. Authority does not fight thoughts. It ignores weak ones. This is a skill, and it must be trained. Daily, quietly. Most people try to overpower their mind with hype. That fails. Authority is built through decision integrity. Doing what you said you would do even when no one sees it. Especially when no one sees it. Every broken promise weakens authority. Every kept promise strengthens it. This is why small commitments matter. They are training grounds. If you can't keep a 10-minute commitment, your mind won't trust you with bigger ones. And money flows to minds it trusts. Another reason hustle fails is lack of internal hierarchy. In a weak mind, emotions are in charge. Stress leads. Fear leads. Comfort leads. In a strong mind, values lead. Principles lead. Long-term vision leads. Emotions follow. This does not mean ignoring emotions. It means not letting them vote. Mental authority says, I hear you, but you don't decide. When that structure is missing, hustle turns chaotic. You jump strategies. You chase trends. You react to every setback. That looks like effort, but it produces scattered results. Authority creates directional force. Same energy, different outcome. This is why two people can work equally hard and end up in completely different places. One is led by reaction, the other by decision. Authority also affects how you handle money emotionally. Without authority, money triggers impulses. Spend to feel better. Avoid to reduce anxiety. Risk to escape boredom. With authority, money becomes neutral, a tool, and neutrality is power. Because emotional money decisions always cost more than numbers reveal. Authority allows patience, and patience multiplies wealth. Hustle wants speed. Authority chooses timing. Speed without timing destroys systems. Timing without speed creates nothing. Wealth requires both, but authority decides when. Another critical point: mental authority must exist before results. You cannot wait until you feel confident. Confidence is a byproduct of authority, not the source. Authority comes first. You decide who you are, then you behave accordingly. Even when results lag, especially when results lag. This is the invisible gap where most people quit. They work hard, see no immediate reward, and collapse into doubt. Authority holds the line during that gap. It says, results are delayed, not denied, and it keeps moving. This is why decision is greater than motivation. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Decision says, this is who I am. Money follows identity, not effort, not excitement. Identity. When you develop mental authority, hustle changes. It becomes intentional, measured, sustainable. You stop proving yourself. You start building systems. You don't chase money. You create conditions where money stays. In the next chapter, we will explore thinking like an owner. Before you own anything, the internal posture that separates builders from consumers long before money shows up. Most people believe ownership comes after success. After the money, after the title, after the proof. That belief keeps them waiting, because ownership is not a reward. It is a posture, and posture always comes first. An owner does not wait to be given permission to think responsibly. They assume responsibility before it looks logical. This is one of the clearest differences between those who build wealth and those who only consume it. A consumer asks, what do I get? An owner asks, what do I build? A consumer waits for instruction. An owner looks for leverage. A consumer reacts to price. An owner evaluates value. These patterns appear long before money does. You can see them in how someone treats time, energy, and attention. Ownership begins internally. Before you own assets, you must own your decisions. Before you own systems, you must own outcomes. Before you own wealth, you must own responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable. This is where most people hesitate. They want the benefits of ownership without the weight of it. But wealth does not move toward people who avoid weight. It moves toward those who can carry it. Thinking like an owner means this: you stop blaming conditions. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop explaining why something didn't work. You ask one question instead: what part of this is mine to handle? That question changes everything. An owner does not outsource accountability. Even when circumstances are unfair, especially when they are unfair. This does not mean self-criticism. It means self-command. Owners do not waste energy on complaint because complaint produces nothing. They conserve energy for solutions. And solutions are valuable. Value attracts money. This chapter is not about arrogance. It is about agency. Agency is the belief that your choices matter. Without agency, effort collapses into frustration. With agency, even small actions compound. Thinking like an owner also changes how you relate to time. Consumers trade time for relief. Owners invest time for leverage. Relief feels good now. Leverage pays later. This is why owners appear patient. They are not waiting. They are positioning. Positioning looks slow from the outside. From the inside, it feels intentional. Owners think in systems, not tasks. A task ends. A system produces repeatedly. Consumers ask, "What do I need to do today?" Owners ask. "What structure would make this easier next month?" This shift alone separates financial trajectories. Because systems compound. Effort alone does not. Another key difference is emotional relationship to money. Consumers feel controlled by money. Owners feel responsible for it. Responsibility creates calm. Calm improves judgment. Better judgment produces better returns. When money feels emotional, decisions degrade. Owners aim for neutrality, not attachment, not avoidance. Neutrality. They don't celebrate money excessively. They don't fear losing it either. They treat it as a tool. Tools are meant to be used wisely. This emotional neutrality is trained. It comes from repeated exposure to decision-making without panic. That is why thinking like an owner before owning anything is essential. You practice calm with small numbers so you don't collapse with larger ones. Owners also evaluate cost differently. Consumers see cost as loss. Owners see cost as trade-off. What am I exchanging for? What? Time for money. Money for knowledge. Risk for leverage. This thinking prevents impulsive decisions. Impulsivity is expensive. Owners are deliberate. Deliberateness looks boring, but boring decisions build wealth. Exciting decisions often destroy it. Ownership also changes how you handle failure. Consumers take failure personally. Owners take it analytically. Failure becomes feedback. Feedback becomes refinement. Refinement improves systems. This is why wealthy people recover faster. They do not waste emotional energy on identity collapse. They stay intact. That intactness protects momentum. Owners do not need constant validation. They validate themselves through execution. Execution builds confidence. Confidence reduces hesitation. Reduced hesitation improves timing. Timing multiplies outcomes. Notice the chain. Ownership is not a single trait. It is a cascade of internal behaviors. Thinking like an owner also means protecting attention. Owners are selective. They do not consume everything. They curate input, because attention feeds identity. Identity drives behavior. Behavior produces results. This is why owners limit noise, not because they are antisocial, but because clarity is expensive to lose. Distraction erodes clarity faster than failure ever will. Owners would rather miss a trend than lose focus. Trends are temporary. Focus compounds. Another subtle shift. Owners do not ask. Is this guaranteed, they ask. Is this aligned? Guarantees are for employees. Alignment is for builders. This does not mean recklessness. It means trusting process over certainty. Certainty is rare. Process is repeatable. Owners trust what they can control. Effort, learning, consistency. They release what they cannot. Luck, timing, approval. This emotional independence creates stability. Stability attracts opportunity. People trust stable minds. Investors trust them. Partners trust them. Money trusts them. This chapter is about training that internal posture early, before success, before proof, before applause. Because when opportunity finally arrives, your response is automatic. You don't freeze. You don't doubt. You step forward calmly. That calm is earned, not imagined. Thinking like an owner before owning anything is how you prepare your nervous system for wealth. So when wealth arrives, it feels familiar, not overwhelming, not dangerous, appropriate. In the next chapter, we'll move deeper into emotional discipline and wealth stability. Why emotions quietly decide financial outcomes, and how the wealthy learn to act independently of how they feel. Most people believe money problems are financial. They are not. They are emotional. Money does not disappear because of math. It disappears because of fear, impulse, insecurity, urgency, boredom, or ego. And until emotions are disciplined, no amount of income can create stability. This is why emotional discipline is not optional for wealth. It is the backbone. Without it, every gain leaks. With it, even modest resources compound. Emotional discipline means one thing above all else: you act based on principle, not feeling. Feelings fluctuate. Principles endure. The wealthy are not unemotional. They are emotionally regulated. They feel fear, but they don't obey it. They feel excitement, but they don't chase it. They feel doubt, but they don't surrender to it. They notice emotions without letting emotions lead. This skill is invisible, but it shapes every financial outcome. Most people let emotion decide timing. They buy when excited. They sell when afraid. They quit when bored. They overwork when anxious. This emotional volatility creates financial volatility. Money does not stay in unstable hands. Emotional discipline stabilizes hands. It allows you to hold position when others panic. And panic is expensive. Emotional discipline begins with awareness. If you don't know what you're feeling, you are already reacting. Reaction is the enemy of wealth. Reaction compresses time. It forces decisions now instead of allowing patience. And patience is a financial advantage. Most opportunities reward those who can wait without becoming restless. Restlessness causes premature exits. Discipline allows delayed gratification. Delayed gratification multiplies outcomes. This is why emotional discipline matters more than intelligence. A smart person with poor emotional control will sabotage themselves repeatedly. A calm person with average intelligence will often outperform them. Because calm preserves clarity. Clarity improves judgment. Judgment compounds. Emotional discipline also affects how you experience setbacks. Without discipline, setbacks feel personal. They attack identity. I'm not good at this. I always fail. This never works for me. With discipline, setbacks are informational. What does this teach? What needs adjustment? What stays unchanged? One response drains energy. The other refines direction. Wealth is built through refinement, not perfection. Emotional discipline prevents identity collapse. Identity collapse causes people to abandon long-term plans for short-term relief. Relief feels good. Relief is expensive. Discipline tolerates discomfort. Not forever, but long enough. Long enough for systems to mature. Long enough for momentum to form. Long enough for compounding to begin. This tolerance is rare, and rarity creates value. Another hidden role of emotional discipline is restraint. Wealth is not only built by action, it is protected by not acting, not reacting, not chasing, not explaining, not proving. Many financial losses come from unnecessary action, acting to soothe emotion, acting to appear competent, acting to feel in control. Emotional discipline asks a simple question: is this necessary or is this emotional? That pause saves money. Again and again. Discipline also shapes how you handle success. Success without discipline inflates ego. Ego invites risk. Risk without structure invites loss. This is why sudden success often reverses. Discipline keeps success boring. Boring success lasts. Emotionally disciplined people do not need to signal wealth. They do not rush to upgrade identity. They let systems catch up. They understand that wealth is quiet first and visible later. That patience protects capital. Another layer of emotional discipline is self-trust. People who do not trust themselves emotionally seek external reassurance. They overconsume opinions. They change direction frequently. They dilute strategy. Self-trust reduces noise. Reduced noise improves execution. Execution compounds. Self-trust is built through emotional consistency. Doing what you said you would do, regardless of mood. Especially when the mood fades. This is not harshness. It is integrity. Integrity stabilizes identity. Stable identity stabilizes finances. Emotional discipline also governs lifestyle inflation. Without discipline, more money means more spending. Spending becomes emotional reward. Reward becomes expectation. Expectation becomes pressure. Pressure erodes freedom. Discipline creates margin. Margin creates safety. Safety allows long-term thinking. Long-term thinking creates wealth. This chain is invisible to most people. They feel richer but become more fragile. Discipline resists that trap. It asks, does this expense increase freedom or reduce it? Freedom-focused decisions look conservative, short-term. They feel powerful, long-term. Emotional discipline is also what allows focus. Focus is not willpower. It is emotional management. Distraction often comes from discomfort. We seek novelty to escape unease. Discipline stays with the task, even when it's boring, even when it's repetitive, especially when it's repetitive. Repetition is where mastery forms. Mastery attracts leverage. Leverage attracts wealth. This is why emotionally disciplined people appear consistent. Consistency is not personality. It is regulation. They regulate impulses. They regulate energy. They regulate attention. Money responds to regulated systems, not chaotic ones. Finally, emotional discipline creates financial peace before financial abundance. Peace is not the result of wealth. It is the precondition for sustaining it. Without peace, wealth feels fragile. With peace, even small progress feels stable. This internal stability is what allows scale, because scale amplifies everything. If chaos exists inside, scale magnifies chaos. If discipline exists inside, scale magnifies order. Wealth amplifies who you already are. This chapter is not about suppressing emotion. It is about placing emotion in the correct position. Not leader, not enemy. Signal. Information. Nothing more. When emotion stops leading, decision quality improves. When decision quality improves, wealth becomes inevitable. In the next chapter, we will explore repetition, identity, and the wealth frequency, why what you repeat daily becomes your financial ceiling or your expansion point. Most people believe wealth is created by effort, but effort is only the visible layer. Beneath effort is behavior. Beneath behavior is belief. And beneath belief is programming. Your subconscious does not respond to what you want. It responds to what it is surrounded by. This is why environment matters more than technique. You can know every financial strategy in the world, but if your daily inputs train scarcity, your results will always drift back to limitation. Your mind is not neutral. It is constantly being programmed by people, by words, by media, by repetition. And most of this programming happens quietly, not through dramatic moments, but through what you are exposed to every single day. The subconscious learns through exposure, not logic. It absorbs tone, emotion, patterns. It does not ask whether something is true. It asks whether something is familiar. This is why two people can read the same book, hear the same message, live in the same economy, and produce completely different financial lives. Their environments are different. Their inputs are different. Their subconscious is trained differently. Look at the people you are around most, not the people you admire online, not the people you listen to occasionally. The people you are around. What do they talk about? Do they talk about problems or possibilities? Do they speak in blame or responsibility? Do they normalize struggle or progress? The subconscious does not argue with repetition. It accepts it. If you are repeatedly around people who see money as stress, money will feel stressful to you. If you are repeatedly around people who complain about work, work will feel heavy. If you are repeatedly around people who fear risk, opportunity will feel dangerous. This is not weakness. This is conditioning. Your subconscious is loyal to its environment. That is why getting around the right people is not motivational advice. It is neurological hygiene. The same applies to words. Words are not harmless. Language is instruction. The words you hear repeatedly become the language of your inner dialogue. And your inner dialogue is the voice that guides decisions. If your environment constantly uses phrases like, must be nice, rich people are lucky, that won't work. It's too late. Your subconscious records those phrases as rules. Rules create limits. Limits create ceilings. This is why many people sabotage opportunities without realizing it. They feel off about success, uncomfortable with expansion, anxious when things start going well. That discomfort is not intuition. It is subconscious conflict. Their internal programming does not match the opportunity, so the system corrects back to what feels familiar. Environment also includes media. What you listen to before sleep matters. What you scroll through when your mind is tired matters. What you expose yourself to when you are emotionally open matters. The subconscious is most receptive when the conscious mind is relaxed. This is why nighttime input is powerful. At night, the mind stops analyzing and starts absorbing. If you feed fear at night, you install fear. If you feed scarcity at night, you reinforce scarcity. If you feed calm, structured thinking, you install stability. This is why wealth-oriented programming works best quietly, not aggressively, not loudly, but consistently. Your environment shapes your default emotional state, and your default emotional state shapes financial behavior. A nervous system in survival mode cannot build wealth. It can only protect. Protecting is not creating. Creation requires safety. Safety is trained through consistent, predictable inputs. This is why wealthy environments feel calm, not because nothing goes wrong, but because reactions are regulated. Regulation creates clarity. Clarity creates better decisions. Better decisions compound. Another overlooked factor is what you are not exposed to. Silence matters. Distance matters. Removing noise is a form of programming. When you step away from constant opinions, your own thoughts become clearer. Clarity allows identity to stabilize. A stable identity attracts stable results. This is why getting away often leads to breakthroughs. Not because of inspiration, but because of reduced interference. Your subconscious finally has space to reorganize. This is also why trying harder often fails. Trying harder in the same environment produces the same results. Change the environment, and behavior shifts naturally. No force required. No willpower needed. Environment works automatically. That is its power. Your subconscious is shaped by what it repeatedly witnesses. If it repeatedly witnesses chaos, it learns chaos. If it repeatedly witnesses calm execution, it learns composure. This is why being around wealth matters more than chasing it. Not to copy lifestyles, but to absorb posture, how people decide, how they speak, how they respond to pressure. Posture is subconscious, and posture determines outcome. This chapter is not asking you to judge your current environment, only to observe it, because awareness is the first interruption. Once you see what is shaping you, you regain choice. You can curate input. You can limit exposure. You can replace noise with structure. And over time, your subconscious begins to update, not instantly, but reliably. That update changes how money feels. Less emotional, less charged, more neutral. Neutrality is powerful. Neutrality allows consistency. Consistency allows compounding. This is why wealth is rarely built in chaotic environments. Chaos trains reaction. Reaction burns resources. Stability builds reserves. So the question is not, how do I make more money? The deeper question is, what am I training my subconscious to expect? Because expectation shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. Environment is the silent trainer behind it all. In the next chapter, we will explore repetition, identity, lock-in, and compound wealth, why hearing the right message once is not enough, and why repetition is the mechanism that turns awareness into identity. Most people think repetition is boring. They believe once they understand something, they should move on. But understanding does not change identity. Repetition does. Your mind is not sculpted by insight. It is sculpted by exposure. By hearing the same idea again, from a slightly different angle, until it stops feeling new and starts feeling true. This is why wealth does not arrive suddenly for most people. It accumulates quietly, in the same way identity does. The subconscious does not change through intensity. It changes through frequency. What you repeat becomes familiar. What is familiar becomes safe. What feels safe becomes automatic. This is the mechanism behind compound wealth. Not just financial compounding, but identity compounding every day. Your identity is either reinforced or slowly rewritten. There is no pause button. If you repeat scarcity narratives, your identity locks into limitation. If you repeat stability, ownership, and calm authority, your identity locks into capacity. This is why listening again matters. Not because you forgot the words, but because your subconscious needs repetition to accept a new self-image. Think about how identity was formed in the first place. You did not decide it consciously. It was repeated to you through childhood, through culture, through tone, through expectations. You're not good with money. That's risky. People like us don't do that. Those phrases did not convince you in one moment. They trained you over time. The same mechanism works in reverse, but it requires patience. Repetition is not about motivation. It is about installation. Each repetition removes friction. The first time you hear a new idea, your mind evaluates it. The second time, it compares it. The third time, it tests it. The 10th time, it starts accepting it. The 20th time, it stops resisting. Eventually, it becomes background truth. That is identity lock-in. Once identity locks in, behavior follows without effort. You stop forcing discipline. You stop negotiating with yourself. You simply act in alignment with who you believe you are. This is where compound wealth begins. Because wealth compounds best when behavior is consistent. And consistency only happens when identity is stable. A person who occasionally thinks like an owner will occasionally get results. A person who is an owner internally acts that way every day. Not loudly, not dramatically, but reliably. This is why repetition creates calm confidence. Not hype, not excitement. Calm. Calm is a signal of internal alignment. When the mind no longer argues with the idea of wealth, it stops self-sabotaging. It stops rushing. It stops overreacting. It allows time to do its work. Compound wealth is slow at first, just like identity change. At the beginning, nothing seems to happen. Externally, internally, everything is reorganizing. This is the phase most people quit, because they are still measuring progress emotionally. But wealth does not respond to emotion. It responds to alignment. Repetition builds alignment. Each repetition strengthens the same neural pathways. Over time, those pathways become dominant. Dominant thoughts create dominant behavior. Dominant behavior creates dominant outcomes. This is not philosophy. It is how the brain works. The subconscious trusts what it hears repeatedly, especially when heard in calm states, especially when heard without pressure. This is why listening at night is powerful. The conscious mind relaxes. The critical filter softens. The subconscious absorbs patterns. You are not trying to believe. You are being trained. Repetition also neutralizes fear. Fear feeds on novelty. When an idea feels unfamiliar, fear reacts. When an idea becomes familiar, fear loses leverage. This is why wealthy people feel calm around large numbers. They are familiar. They have been repeated internally. The numbers no longer trigger emotion. They trigger strategy. This is identity compounding in action. The more you repeat a wealthy self-image, the less emotional money becomes. The less emotional money becomes, the more rational decisions become. Rational decisions compound. This is why repetition is not optional. It is the mechanism. You do not repeat to convince yourself. You repeat to normalize the identity. Once normalized, effort decreases. Effortlessness increases. Not because things are easy, but because resistance is gone. This is also why inconsistency is expensive. Each time you interrupt repetition, you slow identity formation. Each time you switch messages, you reset the training process. Clarity requires consistency. Consistency requires commitment, not to action, to input. What you feed your mind daily determines who you become financially. This chapter is not asking you to believe harder. It is asking you to repeat smarter. Same core message, same identity signal. Over time, that is how identity locks in. And once identity locks in, compound wealth becomes natural, not forced, not chased. Natural. In the next chapter, we will complete the loop with wealth as a natural outcome, not a chase where money stops being the focus and becomes the byproduct of who you have become. At some point, something shifts. You stop thinking about money all the time, not because you have everything, but because money is no longer the center of your identity. This is the quiet turning point most people never reach. They keep chasing wealth, and in doing so, they keep reinforcing the belief that wealth is outside of them. But wealth does not respond to pursuit. It responds to alignment. When you chase, you signal lack. When you align, you signal readiness. Money behaves like trust. It moves towards stability, clarity, and calm confidence. This is why wealth is not a goal. It is a byproduct, a reflection of how you think, how you decide, how you regulate emotion, and how you hold responsibility. By the time wealth begins to stay, you are no longer asking for it. You are prepared for it. This is where many people get confused. They believe the wealthy are obsessed with money. In reality, the wealthy are obsessed with process. Money becomes a side effect of correct thinking repeated over time. They do not wake up chasing income. They wake up executing standards. They are not driven by urgency. They are guided by structure. This is why wealth feels calm around them. It senses containment. Money does not want chaos. It does not want emotional volatility. It does not want someone who will panic, overspend, overreact, or collapse under pressure. It wants an environment that can hold it. That environment is not external. It is internal. By this point in the audiobook, you have not learned how to get rich. You have learned how to become stable. And stability attracts resources. Stability attracts opportunity. Stability attracts trust. This is why money begins to arrive quietly, not in dramatic bursts, but in steady accumulation. You start noticing patterns. Decisions feel clearer. You say no more easily. You stop forcing timelines. You stop proving yourself. And without trying, you become someone others trust with responsibility. Responsibility attracts compensation. This is wealth as a natural outcome, not a chase, not a performance, but a result of internal order. When identity is aligned, money no longer creates anxiety. It becomes a tool. When money becomes a tool, it stops controlling behavior. You do not spend to feel worthy. You do not save out of fear. You do not invest emotionally. You act from posture, not pressure. This is calm confidence. Not loud, not flashy, but grounded. Calm confidence is a signal to the world. It says, this person can hold more, and life responds accordingly. This is why wealth arrives after identity shifts. not before. If money comes too early, it amplifies instability. If money comes after identity matures, it amplifies impact. This is not moral. It is mechanical. Money magnifies who you already are. That is why chasing wealth before alignment often creates stress instead of freedom. By now, you understand something subtle. You do not need a better life. You need a steadier version of yourself. When the self is steady, life reorganizes around it. Opportunities become visible. Noise becomes irrelevant. Comparison fades. You stop measuring yourself against others because your internal compass is clear. This is when wealth stops being emotional. And when wealth stops being emotional, it becomes sustainable. Sustainable wealth does not require motivation. It requires rhythm. A rhythm of thinking clearly. A rhythm of deciding calmly. A rhythm of acting consistently. That rhythm compounds. This is the final insight. Wealth is not something you achieve. It is something you allow by removing internal resistance. Resistance comes from fear. Fear comes from instability. Instability dissolves through discipline. Discipline is not force. It is structure. And structure creates safety. When the mind feels safe, it expands. When it expands, it sees possibilities instead of threats. Possibilities create value. Value attracts compensation. The loop completes itself. This is why the chase ends here. There is nothing left to run toward. Only something to continue becoming. From this point forward, wealth will feel quieter, less exciting, more normal. That is a good sign, because when something feels normal, you stop sabotaging it. You stop testing it. You stop doubting it. You simply maintain it. And maintenance is where real freedom lives. As this audiobook comes to a close, there is nothing you need to promise yourself. Nothing to affirm loudly. Nothing to prove. Just one quiet understanding. You don't attract money. You become someone money stays with. Let that idea settle. Not as motivation, as identity. And allow the rest to unfold naturally. Now, there is nothing left to understand. No more concepts to chase. No more ideas to collect. No more motivation to squeeze out of yourself. What you've just listened to was not meant to excite you. It was meant to settle you. Because wealth does not arrive in a rush. It arrives when the inner noise finally quiets down. If you've listened closely, you may notice something subtle. Your breathing is slower. Your body is softer. Your mind is no longer arguing. That is not an accident. That is alignment. You don't need to think about money right now. You don't need to plan. You don't need to promise yourself anything. Tonight is not about action. It's about installation. The ideas you heard are not instructions. They are patterns. And patterns work best when you stop forcing them and allow repetition to do its job. You don't change identity in one decision. You change it by returning to the same frequency. Again and again, until it feels normal. That is why this audiobook was designed to be listened to more than once. Not because you missed something, but because your subconscious learns through familiarity. Each time you listen, resistance drops a little more. The old financial identity loosens. The new one settles in quietly. You don't have to believe anything. Belief will come on its own. You don't have to visualize harder. Clarity will sharpen naturally. You don't have to force discipline. Behavior will follow identity. This is how wealth becomes stable. Not loud, not rushed, not fragile. Just present. As you move forward from here, let life respond at its own pace. You don't need to announce your goals. You don't need to explain your mindset. You don't need to prove that something has changed. The deepest changes are invisible at first, and that's how you know they're real. If this message resonated with you, there's nothing you need to comment, nothing you need to share, nothing you need to promise. Just one quiet action is enough. Return to this audio. Let it play again. Tonight or another night. Let repetition do the work. Because you are no longer chasing wealth, you are becoming someone it stays with. Sleep well.